Hey man, what's going on?
Howdy doody. Pretty okay.
Great, great. Welcome to episode 4 of season 2 of Bite My Shiny Metal cast, Fry and the Slurm Factory. Man, what a great episode. I think we mentioned this beforehand, right? This is one of my top favorites, I think, of the season. It's one of the better ones.
I
Um,
do like this episode. I don't think it's my favorite of the season, but it is a pretty damn good one.
yeah, it's one of my favorites, not my favorite. My
Especially
favorite
after the
episode
last
of the
episode.
my favorite of the series is actually in this season as well, but this is one of my favorites of the season. But I think this is a very strong episode, very very well done. It's of course based
Much,
off of
much better than the last one. Much
sure
better.
it's a parody off of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the one with Gene Wilder playing Willy Wonka, not of course Johnny Depp with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, well, that one
One
came
with the
way
Oompa
after this,
Loompas.
anyways.
Yeah, the Oompa Loompas and they're singing. But anyway, we begin the story, or we begin this episode, I guess, with a cold open on something we haven't seen since I can't remember now what episode it was, but with
The
Calculon and
calculon?
all my
Yeah.
circuits. Yeah, we get to see this again, the nice soap opera that Fry and Bender like to watch. They're fans
I
of.
think that was like the fourth episode. No, it was the
They're
second
roommates,
episode.
right? I roommate.
Third
Third
episode, right?
episode.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. The
Third
I
episode.
roommate one. Yes. Um, and we have these guys watching all my circuits, and it's a fun little thing. Like, oh my God, my half brother is sleeping with my wife, and then I'm gonna kill my half. But of course, like it's hilarious because it's just the same robot over and over again. But
It's oh crap, what's that called? What soap opera. It's very soap
soap
opera.
opera, yeah. Oh, it's good.
Uh,
It's overacted soap opera drama that it's just incredible
I
nonsense.
love the overacting, man. I
Yeah,
love overacting like that. Like there's a correct way to overact and there's a wrong way to overact, and
yeah.
both are awesome to watch.
And as they're watching it, then they then cut to commercial on the show, and we're treated to a commercial in the show for Slurm, their drink of the universe, one of the main addictive drinks of the universe, one of their
It's
sodas,
like
soda
their
pops of the
Coke. It's like
yeah,
their Coca-Cola,
very much
basically.
like their Coke, or chocolate, I guess, as you could also say as well, because
Yoo-hoo.
it's technically there. But yeah, it's commercial for that, and it has the introduction of Slurms Mackenzie, who is like the party worm of the whole thing,
The party dude.
the party dude. And yeah, whoever can do this, what they talked about in the commercial is that they're going to introduce a contest where there's going to be the golden bottle cap they can find in cans of Slurm, where they can try and get to see the Slurm Factory, which is on the planet just Wormulon, I guess.
Wormulon.
Yeah. So
Slurmulon or Wormulon? I can't remember now.
Wormulon, yeah.
Okay.
Slurm is the drink, Wormulon is the planet because they're worms, I guess. And yeah, very much the case of similar to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Difference being that there were 5 tickets, I believe, in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's only one bottle cap here, but
Oh, I can't remember.
yeah, already we're on a good start there. So we're also introduced to the idea that Fry has major addiction problems, and he tends to drink and drink and drink and drink Slurm. He can't get enough of it. He gets like horrible things tend to happen when he does this, but he loves Slurm. We'll put it this way. Now, of course, we go to the intro. The intro has a nice little tie into the previous episodes, live from Omicron Persei 8. So I thought that was kind of a fun little joke from the previous episode onto here, and we get into the main plot of it. So the main thing, Fry, of course, is drinking Slurm. He wants to get that golden cap to win the contest. Um, Bender is also apparently sick in this episode. I do want to say, as an animation thing, I like that they changed Bender's coloring when he's sick. Like he's like a really dull. How would you describe that color? Like kind of like a dull gray, almost. Like he's not the same tint color. He's like a very like purplish gray kind of thing. Um,
He's more palish gray than he is before.
right, which is to play off that he's
I
sick.
still I never saw the color change. So maybe you're watching a different version or something.
No, no, no. There is okay, maybe there's definitely a color change for me at least because like so as we move on through the episode, Bender's sick. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Uh, the professor figures out like, okay, I can use this new invention, which will come into play for the episode, but he calls it the F ray. the ability to see
Like an
basically
X-ray.
through, yeah, just like an X-ray, but it can see through metal and other things, and apparently it gives off a lot of like hard radiation. So uses this machine, which is like a little flashlight, I guess you could call it, right? Like just looks at the stuff, and he looks through Bender, and apparently he stole Amy's watch, which is jammed in like little gears in his body. Now, right when Bender figures this out and he reaches into his body and pulls it out, his body changes from that weird palish gray back to his normal color.
All right, let me look it up. Don't watch it along as I am. But yeah, I love the fact that it's like there's got like gears in them and stuff like that. Like it's very funny.
I was going to ask you, do you know that
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing?
yeah, there it is. Yep, there it is.
You
Yeah,
see it
there's
changes, right?
he
Okay,
does
yeah.
good. Yep.
So I'm not crazy. Is there something? Can you tell me what do you think about this number, the number thing at the beginning? So if you freeze frame on his body when the F-ray goes over his head, there's this 6502. Does that mean anything? Or is that
Six
just like a
five
little?
zero
Is that
two.
like a little joke inside the idea of the game or inside the show of Futurama with all the people? Like, is there some? Do you know anything about this right off the top of your head?
No, not off the top of my head. It's probably either a math thing because like the people who wrote the show they were pretty smart, so maybe it was like some kind of other science fiction thing to do with robots or something like that, or maybe it was an animator's
Code or
number
something?
code or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, it reminded me a little bit of the like Pixar does that, right? Doesn't Pixar have like a four-digit number that they use in almost all of their properties whenever they have?
That four-digit number, I can't remember what it is. I can't remember what number it was for Pixar, but that
Yeah.
one in particular is because the people who kind of who worked for Pixar at that time, they went to a school called Cal Arts, pretentious pricks. But it's a good school for people who go there. It's just they're one of the people who think they're way better than everyone are, and sometimes they are. And that was the class number or something like that. Like like one of the classes I went to at one of my colleges was like your class like oh crap drawing class 32, 34 or something like that, right? And that was my class. The next one was like 34, 35 or something like that.
So this is their
So
animation studio
yeah,
class
it was
number.
their
Yeah.
class number, and a lot of the people who worked on that was part of that class. So that's why that number is significant because I think Brad Bird was a part of that, John Lasseter, a few other
Yes.
people
Right.
around that stuff, which is why they all work together and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's why you can see if one of those people worked on a project, chances are another person in that class worked on that as well.
Right. And that would make sense because those guys are like bigger names in the animation world now, right? So if people don't know Brad Bird or John Lasseter, they were like ahead of many of the earlier productions of the Pixar films, as well as like Brad Bird did a couple of directions or director jobs as well for somewhat bigger films. I think he did. What was it? Mission Impossible 3. Um,
Ghost Protocol. He did Ghost Protocol, I think.
Ghost Protocol. I'm sorry, there's J.J. Abrams was 3. Yeah, so Ghost Protocol, and he also did
Er,
what was it, Tomorrowland or something?
Tomorrowland. I like
So
the concept of that. It was
no,
not done very
it
well, and
movie was okay.
I don't
Yeah, it
know.
is what it is.
I don't know at what I wouldn't
Yeah,
blame Brad Bird for that one though.
sure. A lot of other things for that.
There's things wrong with it. Yeah.
Now, as we've introduced the F-ray, and of course the professor is a senile old man. He's who knows where his mind is. Usually he's a lot smarter than this, but he gives the F-ray to Fry and Bender to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
Okay, to interrupt you about that, I just quickly Googled it. The 6502 is a microprocessor, which is the number of the microprocessor. It's apparently a CPU home number that was used in the 70s and 80s. So
Okay.
it's a
Just a
thing. It's a
reference to that. Yeah.
CPU thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an assembly language thing for
Oh, okay.
computers at the time.
Little joke on there. Oh, there you go. Okay, so now we didn't even know that. So I'm like, okay. I thought it was just like a fun random bit of numbers that they use as a joke for something. But no, that makes sense. That's cool.
It's a reference to the 80s and sorry, the 70s and 80s
Sure.
for computers.
Just to show how outdated Bender is, I guess.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, it's like the iMac or something. That was what like like the
Right.
computer at that time was just called the 6502,
Sure,
just
sure.
according to this quick search.
Um, yes, and getting back here, so we have Fry
Sorry,
and
yes.
Bender. No, that's fine. But Fry and Bender have access to the F-ray, right? And of course, what's the whole main thing of this is that there is a contest in which happens to be a bottle cap they're looking for inside of sealed items. So they go to the store, they're bringing the F-ray, and they're just looking through random crap. They don't even think about this at the time. up until a point when Fry gets thirsty due to his addiction, and Bender has the F-ray with him in order to look at all the cans. And I guess they look through what thousands and thousands of all these cans. There's like a montage of them looking and causing mischief by popping
Cat.
balloons and looking at all these things. And all to this, all for finding the bottle cap. They get back. They've won like all this junk from other contest winning
90,000. They checked 90,000 cans. They said, yeah. And
90,000
there's like a
cans.
scooter, a motorcycle,
Yeah,
a whole
like
bunch of
tons of
T-shirts and
hats and
stuff.
shirts and yeah, all this fun stuff that like they just don't care about. And then all of it all, Fry's like, well, I'm thirsty again, so he goes to the fridge and he drinks and he opens just a can of normal Slurm, drinks it, and it turns out he's choking on the winning bottle cap. So after all of that, they found the cap, and they get to go to the Slurm Factory on planet
Here's
Orca.
something I find weird.
Yeah.
Why is a bottle cap in a can?
I guess it's the only thing they can think of that is reminiscent of something to do with drinks, right? Like, why wouldn't it be in a bottle? But bottles are see-through. Maybe that's why. So they just put something in
Oh.
there. Yeah.
Well, do you not remember back in the, and this somewhat is relevant to Futurama because it's for The Simpsons. Do you not remember on the inside of the bottle cap, like just pop
Oh,
bottles
of
and stuff,
course. Yeah.
underneath,
Yeah.
that little plastic tab, if you were to pull it out, there was all the Simpsons, and you need to collect all the Simpsons family characters. And I think
No,
Maggie
I don't
was
remember that. But
no,
sure, no, I never did that kind of stuff. No, well, I never had those drinks to begin with, but I do know the idea because you can also have
yeah,
the cap and you can pop it. There's like a little thing, like a message on the
yeah,
cap.
and
Yeah.
like the whole thing was you had to get all the Simpson family, and Maggie was this apparently one that never existed because that was the winning one. Everyone had Homer
Oh,
and Marge, but none of the kids, so to speak.
okay. Personally, no, but I'm assuming that was like true for most people for it. This is kind of like that, but I guess for a can that is supposed to be the
I just
tab
think it's
open,
weird how it's an actual
yeah,
bottle cap in a can.
in a can, yeah. Well, it's also funny because like the can looks like it's like the hole for where they drink out of is actually quite a bit smaller than what the bottle cap would be able
Yeah,
to go through.
all,
But
all I'm saying is just a weird thing where I
cartoon
was a
magic,
bottle cap in a
yeah,
can.
sure. Like I said, I think it's just the reference of having something drink like inside of another drink like that's solid, so you can't actually see through the can in order to guess, right? But no, that makes sense. I suppose I could have also done it like they pulled the tab off, but then it wouldn't have this fun joke of Fry choking on the cap, right? Now they go into the crew gets to go to Planet Wormulon to go to the Slurm Factory, and we get a full on parody of Willy Wonka, the Willy Wonka factory with what's his name? Glurmo? Yeah,
Yeah.
Glurmo, who's
Glurmo, yeah.
the worm Willy Wonka essentially. But he's wearing the hat and the clothes, but he's
The
literally
purple
just
hat, the pink bow tie, yeah.
literally just a worm. He's just slithering along the ground, all this kind of stuff.
Slug.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of more like a slug, I guess, but they call them worms. And of course, they're also introduced, like actually physically introduced to Slurms Mackenzie, who is giving off the biggest vibes that he does not want to party anymore, but he has to.
Yeah. High five me, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna party. Yeah.
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 So I feel so bad for Slurms Mackenzie, but it's just like the rest of them just don't get it. That he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go lay down. So they're gonna go lie down. So they go into the factory, and yeah, we're introduced to this beautiful, again, reminiscent very much of the old movie. There's a Slurm River, cans in the trees of Slurm, and all this stuff. It's very much, this beautiful looking thing for the tour, right? The quote unquote tour for what they're doing. And we're also introduced to, I guess, one of the funnier parts of the show of this episode. I guess the Grunka lunkas.
Grunkalunkas.
The
Who are like pretty much the same thing as Oompa Loompas, but maybe Oompa Loompas are a trademark thing, so
right. And nobody seems to like the Grunkalunkas.
yeah, I love that because Professor's like, "What are those things?" Oh, those are the Grunkalunkas, and then he explains what they do and stuff like that. And then Professor's like, "Tell them I hate them."
And then later, Leela is like, as they're running away, Leela says something along the lines, "I can smell those disgusting orange guys." So yeah, nobody seems to like the
Yeah.
Grunkalunkas. Now as they go in here, and we can't have the good Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory parody without some singing for it. But as they're going through on this tour of a boat along the Slurm Factory, and Glurmo is explaining, all the little things that they apparently do to make sure that the drink is the best that it can possibly be. They talk about the secret ingredient, and Fry and Bender are bothering Glurmo by trying to get him to say what the secret ingredient is, which he won't admit to. And we get the singing Grunka lunkas that Glurmo apparently hates, and also goes to show that they hate that Glurmo is actually a really bad boss. No one seems to like Glurmo in the first place. And don't forget about the Grunka Lunka's like horrible rhymes. The Grunka Lunka dunkity domed guards.
What about those armed guards? Yeah, the
Grunka Lunka dunkity
you
domed
must not ask
guards.
about the security armed guards.
Yeah. Or
what
Grunka
about that
Lunka
keep
dunkity
outdoor?
dunkity ingredient. Yeah.
What about the secret?
Don't ask about the secret ingredient. Yeah, it's so great. Yeah, Glurmo is just horrible. And gives them, he says, like they're not allowed to sing and they're not allowed to have their bathroom break. So now, meanwhile, of course, as it's shown, Fry is addicted to Slurm. He really wants a Slurm. He keeps asking for it throughout the trip, and he's like, no, when you're partying with Slurms Mackenzie, you can have all the Slurm you want. Not right now.
How soon is that?
Soon enough.
That's not soon enough.
Exactly. So Fry decides to go into the one place he thinks the Slurm is, which is the Slurm River.
The river they're on, yeah.
And there's a fun little thing. He pokes his head in, or tries to poke his head in. Leela says it's stupid. He falls in. Leela saves him because he can't swim. And Bender's already in the water, I guess, because he's wants to be popular.
Yeah, Bender's funny. I love it. Why'd you come in the pool? Everybody was doing it. I just wanted to be popular.
So now,
which don't do that, kids. By the way, don't do something just because all the other kids are doing it. Give it some thought.
Yeah. Whereas Fry is suffering from addiction to certain substances. Don't do that either. Bender is also falling to another big thing: peer pressure. Don't fall for that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as the three of them have now in the water or in the quote unquote slurm, they can't get out of the liquid, and they're sucked into one of the drainage systems, which happens to go underneath the main factory. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew are still on the ship with Glurmo, who are none the wiser that they've disappeared as of right now. So they get into the sewer, and isn't this weird? The liquid is falling into the sewer itself, so no one actually drinks it. And Fry attests this by trying to drink a little bit of it, and it's not Slurm. What's going on? Turns out the factory is a sham, nothing more than just to make it look like it's all pretty and beautiful, kind of like how it was kind of revealed in the Willy Wonka movie, but that actually had the chocolate running around. So now. Turns out Slurm is actually comes from the worms themselves, specifically the queen worm, which they find out that she's just this gigantic worm that, what would you call that? It just like splurts it out of her little tail, I guess. Or I guess maybe it's her ass. It's hard to say. It's kind of disgusting.
Just think of it as like bees and honey, but of the butt end rather than the head end. Bees and honey.
She makes that comparison, doesn't she? She says that.
Yeah, she made a joke. Honey comes from a bee's behind. Milk comes from a cow's behind, which not really.
Not really.
And then something about toothpaste. Then Bender or Fry is like, "What about toothpaste?" Hey, you don't even want to know.
Yeah, fun little joke for the toothpaste. Yeah, we don't know anything about where that comes from. But as they're there and they try and figure out what to do here, Glurmo figures out that they've disappeared and he's there ready to catch them. Leela does a little karate chop or kick, not a karate chop, sorry, like a drop kick on him, and it splits him into two. I think they're both still played by Billy West, if I'm not mistaken, but his voice changes.
Well, the whole thing is they go from a normal thing to like a hello thing. Hello.
Yeah, and that is Billy West doing the original Glurmo's voice, right? Is it Billy West? I feel like it is. Tastes it. He tastes it some more. I feel like it is.
I don't know. Actually.
At first, I thought it was like a special guest star, but I looked in the credits afterwards, and there's no guest stars in there, so I'm pretty sure it's Billy West. But If it's not Billy West, I would apologize, but I'm like 90% sure. In any case, um, after they do this, they split him in half. Turns out he's now two Glurmos, so he can capture them and hold them down, and they're going to be tortured, tortured and killed, I guess, in some horrific way, or especially Bender. So Bender's going to be turned into recycled cans, or he's going to be turned into cans for that by turning him into this because he's a robot.
And
Leela,
I hate I
oh,
don't I
sorry,
don't
go ahead.
like this
Yeah.
because she should have said aluminum or something like that, and this could have been Bender's first joke of I'm 40% aluminum, right
Well,
when he knocks himself.
he makes a joke about that with Amy earlier because way back at the beginning when he's sick, she says, "Why don't you take some zinc?" And he says, "Like I'm 40% zinc."
Ah,
Right. So he does
right.
start making these jokes about himself being like 40% something. But yes, he could have made that kind of joke again. But Bender's going to be recycled. Leela, this is, I think we talked about this off mic, but there's an idea that some production companies would do this. Is they're going to have something, they're going to purposefully make a worse version of it. Therefore, when they bring back the original, more people are going to buy it. So they're going to
Yeah,
do this
yeah,
with Leela.
yeah. We're selling blank, but we're gonna make a new. Here's new blank, and then people don't like new blank, so classic blank is back out.
Yes. Classic blank. And then everybody's like, oh, thank you for answering our prayers and
Yeah,
bringing
thank you
back.
for making the original
Yeah.
thing back again. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for doing what we asked you to do, whereas they were planning to do it in the first place all along. So they're going to do that to Leela. They're going to turn her into a worm. And then
a queen worm.
sorry, a queen worm. And because she's going to be a commoner,
She's a commoner.
her slurm is not going to taste as good as the original Wormulon Queen. So they're going to make a fortune by bringing back Slurm Classic. And what do they do with Fry? Nothing.
That
Yeah.
I love it. He's like, "Am I free to go?" And they're like, and she was like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, thank God! Only if you can not be addicted to this highly concentrated slurm,
Which they put into like a trough, like a
like a
pink
trough."
trough.
Just
And
right
they
into
sit
the
him down.
trough.
They're like, okay, we'll see you later. And then they force a little
Yeah,
bit down his throat to get him addicted. But yeah, like okay. And they leave everybody, classic old style villains
villain.
that leave
Yeah,
their prey. Um, Now, of course, Fry wants to save his friends. Leela's being dipped into the thing. Bender's on the conveyor belt about to be recycled into cans. Fry can't leave the trough. Uh,
because it's so good. It's the
so
best
good.
slurm to ever be made.
I'm honestly trying to think of a time when I've ever had something that was so good that I just couldn't stop drinking it or eating it. I honestly can't think. I'm sure I could think of one later, but when I was a kid, if I could ever think of something like that, but I can't right now.
I don't
Maybe
know.
some kind of soda
There's
pop, but
I
yeah,
think there was like this blue taffy or something like that back in my youth. I still am trying to captivate or try and capture the taste of. I don't know. Anytime
sure.
I'm like, you know what, I want to get some taffy, and I'm always disappointed because it
It's not the
doesn't
same, right?
it's not the same.
Not the
I
same,
think it was like a nougaty toff taffy. I don't know. I can't even explain it because
right? It
maybe
was
it's
so
something I made up in
good,
my mind. Yeah, it was so
right?
good. It's what I made up in my mind.
You've over not analyzed. What is it? Like you just it's too big in your mind, right? It's
Yeah, I know what
too
you're trying to say.
yeah
I can't remember the word either. My God,
yeah
words.
over
Emphasize.
emphasized it, I guess, in your
Thank you.
mind.
Thank
Whatever
you.
the case, yeah. I can't, and that's the thing. I honestly can't think of that myself. I think for me it was a liquid, um, and maybe it ran out,
Here's
but
another one.
yeah,
So I can't remember what movie my dad, my brother, and I were going to, but I think one of the times there's just one of my mom was like, "Get out of the house! I need the house to myself." Okay, I'll take the kids to the
sure,
movie. Yay, movie! And this is when Mountain Dew Code Red had just first come out,
okay,
and so this is the movie theater down on Southland there in
yeah. One of the theaters
whatever,
downtown. Yeah.
and they hadn't they didn't dilute it enough, so we got like instead of like I don't know what the ratio of normal pop would be, like it's like 10%
Oh,
syrup and 90% carbonated water or whatever it was.
but you got
They
the
gave us
opposite or
they
something.
gave us way more carbonate, and my God, that
Oh,
was like the most delicious thing ever. Mountain Dew Code Red when it first came out was amazing,
oh,
and my brother and I like this was the best thing ever. And then it went away for a while, right? Mountain Dew
sure,
Code Red went away, and then
yeah,
they brought it back like maybe 10 years ago. So like another 10 years after the fact. And my
Right.
brother and I, oh, we loved this when we went back to it. It was like, this is crap.
It's not as good as it
So
once was. Yeah.
yeah, my dad's like, I remember when I asked my dad, do you remember when we first tried it at the movie theater? He's like, yeah. I'm like, that was the best. He's like, yeah, they really, really put way too much syrup in it. And we were both like,
Right.
oh, that makes total sense.
And that was, oh
So
yeah, those are like the fountain drinks you get at the
the
cinema,
fountain
right? Like,
drinks,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Oh yeah, those were, yeah, it depended on what day I remember going, but sometimes they were a lot more watery than they should have been, and other days
yeah.
they were better.
Saves. It was
Uh,
probably closer to the end of their like, oh crap, we need to order more, and then
right.
the next day,
Oh,
yeah,
you know what? I do recall there is one drink I remember I always wanted to have. I always got full of it, but there was something. There was one restaurant in our hometown that it was a root beer, a type of root beer that came
oh
from a
yeah, yeah,
certain
yeah.
place, and it
Unfortunately, no
was
longer
no longer
exists.
exists. So
We
I
talked
remember
about
that.
this personally,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was a very popular one for me, and I
Yeah,
remember like
it was
every
like
time
a
I
it was
went,
like a creamy root beer would be the best
it was
way,
so
right? Yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, I miss it. Damn.
yeah.
But
It
yeah,
was so good.
that's so imagine that. Whoever's listening, remember that.
Yeah.
And remember your addiction, and then times that by like 100. And this is basically what Fry is dealing with right now, because he would almost eat his own arms off to drink this liquid.
Right, yeah.
But in any
So
case, he
so
tries to
basically,
save them.
what
Yeah,
what he does, he starts
the
dragging the
trough,
trough
which is like a
and
giant big trough.
drinking it while he's doing it, and just ever so slightly when he can reach with his foot, he turns the thing off for Leela, so the crane picks her up, which they left her in a crane. They could have just left her in a big giant tub that she couldn't have gotten out of.
Right,
So the crane lifts Leela back out. She gets out of
the
the
harness.
locks, the
Yeah,
harness and locks,
the harness or
and
whatever.
then
Yeah,
and then she runs toward Bender. He's like, "No, no, God, no!" Because he's getting put through this machine, but she hits a stop sign, and he's like, "Oh, thank God!"
yeah. The
And
button
then he
there.
looks down. There's a big giant hole punched in him.
And I love I don't know why I always just get a kick out of the animation of like Fry
Right,
bending down and looking with his eyes, and he just kind of does this like
he looks through the
looks
giant
through the
hole through
hole.
Bender,
I
and then
love that little yeah.
while he's doing that, Leela dumps the trough over into the
It's
grate, which then Fry's like, "Oh, I need to no," and he tries to get through the grate, but only his head can stick through. So he's like, "I can get through this, but I have to gnaw
these
off my
damn
arms." So
arms.
he starts trying to chew. Now I thought of this myself. Can you bite your own bicep?
Uh, you can absolutely. I think most people can't lick their elbows. I know one person who can,
Yes,
but I cannot. Sorry, I can bite my
you
arm,
can.
my bicep.
Yeah,
I can't go any higher
I
than the bicep, but yes, I can bite.
yeah,
I can
it's
bite.
it's the beginning of the bicep from the
Yeah.
forearm. Yeah.
Don't please, people, don't try this. Don't bite yourself on our account. But
Don't try
if
actually
you
try to
can't,
knock.
then make sure that your head is okay and your arm is okay. But yeah, that's what
Yeah,
Fry tries to
especially
do.
I love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
but yes, all in all, it's a funny situation that you know, just this is what Fry does, and we have to deal with that. And I guess now we cut to Fry, Leela, and Bender truly escaping from
Yeah, they're out of the torture chamber or
yeah,
whatever.
out of the torture chamber. They're getting out of there. Um, I guess this is a sad moment we get from Slurms Mackenzie shows up in the tunnels as they're running through because remember they're underground, and he says, "I need you to take me with you. You need to take me with you." And of course, they still think he likes to party, so they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll take you with us, but you got to party with us." He's like, "Okay, but can we just like keep it small? I don't want a lot of people." He's like, "Nah, no, we can't do that." So Slurms is all sad. So anyway, they start running, but they realize they're not going to outrun the queen as well as any of her minions. So Slurms decides to sacrifice himself, and he has like these two. What does he call them? Just the baby.
Dixie and Trixie.
Oh, Dixie and Trixie.
Their
Okay,
names are
great.
Dixie and Trixie. Yeah.
Well, I guess yeah, they show up in the future, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. They're part of
Yeah, the
the fourth
feministas.
movie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Oh, that's the same. Oh, so that's what happens to those girls. Okay,
Well, I
cool.
love the
I
fact
forgot
he's
about
like,
that.
girls, these last 40 years have been great, but you
Yeah,
don't have to party with me anymore.
and they're still like beautiful 20 like early 20-year-old girls. These past 40 years you've been helping me with partying. So Slurm says, "No, you got to go, and I'm going to save you the only way I know how, by
By
partying."
partying.
Right, so he's got his little boom box, because we're in the future. He's still got a boombox, whatever. Puts there, starts getting the music of the din, 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 din,
Yeah,
din,
this
din,
is
din,
before
din,
Apple
din.
phones, guys. iPhones, iPods. It's before all that stuff where
Sure.
boomboxes still kind of were not mainstream, but they were still being used.
Yes. Well, this is also because that way he turn up the volume to get the cranking going for like the bass and everything, right? As he gets like the
Shaking the cave, yeah.
the cave to kind of cave in. Um, I do feel I feel worse for Slurms, even though he's like a very minor character. We never see him again. But I feel bad for him just in this one part when he says like "Party on, contest winners," and then as the cave is starting to fall, they actually animate a boulder falling and squishing him
Yeah.
on his
And,
head.
and the last,
Yeah, and then it crushes. And then this is probably one of the top things I don't like about the episode, and probably the top thing I don't like about the episode, as well as like Futurama as a whole. I do kind of think it's disgusting. Is like, so the queen gets there, slams against the wall, and she's like, "No, we're ruined. They're gonna find our disgusting secret," which is of course that Slurm comes from her. And then she's it's hard for me to even say it. She starts like drinking herself, right, to like calm herself down. I don't know. That just every time I see that, I'm always kind of like disgusted by it. So anyway, the Planet Express crew gets off, and I guess they're on the phone with the Commission of Drinks and Tobacco, soft drinks and tobacco and everything, like
the
the
Bureau
people
of
that are
Soft Drinks and
yeah,
yeah,
tobacco and all, like basically anything for extracurricular type of items like people can buy. Like, are they healthy enough? Are they good enough for some things? I think
and
alcohol is in there as
firearms.
well.
Yeah, the
Firearms,
Bureau of Soft Drinks, tobacco, and firearms.
yeah. So
I love how it's soft drinks that
soft
has
drinks is
added to
there,
that.
yeah.
It made the
So
list.
Fry is there with the professor, and the professor is talking to them because I guess Fry and Leela have explained to everybody what's happened and what's going on, where Slurm actually comes from. Professor states this, and the commissioner's like, "Well, finally we get to shut down Slurm, but because of Fry's addictions," and he's like, "Oh, I still love the taste of Slurm, though I don't care where it comes from." He basically just calls out the professor for being crazy, and they have a
And
fun
then the
little
professor's
line.
like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And you're my uncle from the past.
Well, he says like he's like, "Oh, crazy grandpa," right? Fry says, "Crazy grandpa's talking about his old stories again, or crazy stories again."
Yeah.
It's like, you're not my grandson. I'm your uncle from the year you're my uncle from the year 2000." And then Fry does a little, he's crazy signal with his finger going around his ear.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
loopy.
his
Yeah.
old loopy. And then the commissioner's like, "Okay, grandpa, you have a good day," shuts it down, like whatever. So at the end, again, prior just like sitcom logic, everything is basically back to normal. And the crew decides to have one more fun party for Slurms Mackenzie in his honor, despite the fact that he hated partying. But they do it, and Dixie and Trixie are there. They got them off the planet, and yeah, they start partying. They play the music. They all have Slurm, sorry, the drink, and I guess that's where the episode ends. There's a fun little joke that that hole that Bender got from the can is leaking the Slurm, and Fry is lying under him, like drinking it. So fun little thing all around, and that's where we end. Uh, right, and that's Fry and the Slurm Factory. Very solid. You and I talked about this. Very solid storyline, like just very
Yeah, straightforward.
straightforward. Carries
Straightforward.
everybody there. There's no like random cut scenes of different locations specifically. Like it follows with the story. There's not two storylines really going on. Um, so yeah, it's a very solid episode. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. It is one of my favorites. Um, so yeah, your favorite scene, favorite MVP character, funny scene, funny line. Anything to
I
add to
don't know.
it?
Overall, this wasn't really a funny episode in my mind. There wasn't a lot. There's a lot of oh, guys, remember Willy Wonka? Remember like Slurm is like Coca-Cola kind of thing. It was just a clever, well-written episode. It wasn't. I don't know if there was anything funny about it, in my opinion, other than like when like Fry was trying to chew off his own arms. That was probably it.
That was pretty funny. Oh, I think there's a lot of like just like little jokes that I have, like especially with Glurmo and how he treats the Grunka lunkas, and they're like Grunka lunka dunkity domgar. It's like I think that's like one of my favorites of this stuff. And then like Bender like telling him to shut up, and uh,
Yeah, there's bits and pieces. I'm not saying there isn't, but
there's
just
some good things.
nothing stands out to me other than the gnawing off the arms or the darn guards.
No. There's also
Second
Glurmo.
ingredient.
There's another thing with like continuity of how Hermes treats treats
Oh
people
yeah,
in
I forgot
general,
about that.
right? He's
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about with like the Grunka lunkas and how they're practically slaves. Yeah. So that there's some fun little they're very subtle little things, I think, but there's it mostly plays on the parody of the Willy Wonka, the Chocolate Factory, which of course I think actually came out in the 80s. So even
Ah, I
by the
couldn't
standard of
remember.
this, I think it's actually a little bit older. Maybe not a lot of kids would have seen it. They probably did, but maybe not a lot of them today maybe wouldn't have seen it.
Well,
Very
I've
good
read the
movie, by
Roald
the
Dahl
way.
books.
Everybody watch that movie. It is very good, very
Read the
well made.
books first. Roald Dahl, great author.
Book is all, but the book is slightly different, isn't it? By the standard of the
Yeah,
first movie, it's a bit different, isn't it?
obviously, like
Yeah.
less than 100-page book. I don't remember how long it is. It's not that long, and
Okay.
turn that into an hour and a half movie. Yeah, they'd have
Okay.
to adapt some things. Yeah,
I
of
suppose
course.
like the songs are also added to it, right? Yeah,
I actually
it's also
don't
a works of art.
remember, to be honest. I think the Grunkalunkas did actually sing songs in the book, but
They
like
probably
it
they
moved a
probably
lot
sing
faster.
something, but everybody like I've got the golden ticket, like
Oh no, that
with
definitely
his
wasn't it.
grandparents. That doesn't
No,
happen. So, but
no.
no, definitely a good movie for anybody who hasn't seen it. Okay, your MVP for the episode,
Fry, obviously
definitely
Fry.
Fry. Okay, yeah, I guess he's like your one funny one there, right? Yeah, Fry's. I mean, Fry is kind of the character
Me,
of the
yeah.
episode, isn't he? Like, there's funny lines from Bender and the Professor, but yeah, I'd say Fry is probably mine as well.
They're one-offs.
Yeah. So no, I think that's overall a very good episode. Very, very good. But yeah, I guess then that will bring us to the end of this one and the beginning for next time um when we see the next episode, which is called what is it here? I second that emotion, which which I guess is more of a Bender centric episode. Bender and Leela, I
Bender and
suppose.
Leela.
So this would be nice change from before there. So in any case, thank you again, Mitchell, for joining me and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Thanks for Futuramaing.